Did you know that the US has imposed tariffs on over $300 billion worth of goods since 2018, impacting everything from electronics to clothing? The topic of tariffs has been on everyone's mind lately, and there's one thing in particular that's got people talking: Trump's claims about 25% tariffs. The president has been vocal about his plans to impose these tariffs on certain goods, but the question on everyone's mind is, will they actually happen? And if so, what does this mean for consumers, businesses, and the economy as a whole? A lot of people are worried about the impact these tariffs could have on the global economy, and for good reason. It's a critical issue that affects us all, and it's essential that we understand what's at stake. So let's dive in and explore what these tariffs really mean. By threatening to impose 25% tariffs on a wide range of goods, Trump is sending a clear message to other countries. The US is not afraid to take a tough stance on trade. But is this just a clever negotiating tactic, or does the president genuinely plan to follow through on his threats? The implications of these tariffs on businesses are huge. Imagine having to suddenly pay an extra 25% on all your imports. It could be devastating for many companies, especially small and medium sized enterprises. And what about consumers? Would we be willing to pay higher prices for goods, or would we start looking elsewhere? A lot of businesses are already feeling the pinch, and the uncertainty surrounding these tariffs is causing a lot of anxiety. It's not just about the cost, though. It's also about the logistics and the time it takes to adapt to new regulations. In reality, the impact of these tariffs wouldn't be limited to the US alone. It would have far reaching consequences for international relations, trade agreements, and even global economic growth. The World Trade Organization has already expressed concerns about the tariffs, and many experts are warning about the dangers of a trade war. It's a complex issue, and there are no easy answers. One thing is clear, though: the tariffs would lead to a significant increase in prices for many goods. This would be particularly problematic for low income households who already struggle to make ends meet. Businesses that rely heavily on imports would need to rethink their entire supply chain, and some might even be forced to shut down altogether. The economic consequences would be felt across the board, from manufacturers to retailers to consumers. And it's not just about the economic impact. The tariffs would also have a significant political impact. They would be seen as a clear challenge to the current global trade order, and many countries would likely retaliate with their own tariffs. The EU, China, and Canada have already threatened to impose tariffs on US goods in response. It's a delicate situation, and the stakes are high. The history of tariffs in the US is a long and complex one. From the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930 to the current trade tensions, tariffs have always been a contentious issue. In the 1930s, the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act was passed, which imposed high tariffs on thousands of imported goods. The aim was to protect American industries, but it ultimately led to a sharp decline in international trade and exacerbated the Great Depression. Fast forward to the 1980s, when the US imposed tariffs on Japanese electronics. The aim was to address the massive trade deficit, but it ended up doing more harm than good. Today, we're seeing a similar pattern emerge. The Trump administration is using tariffs as a bargaining chip to negotiate better trade deals, but the outcome is far from certain. Many experts are warning about the dangers of tariffs, pointing out that they're not an effective way to address trade imbalances. In fact, they often lead to unintended consequences, such as higher prices for consumers and retaliatory tariffs from other countries. So, what's the end game here? Is the Trump administration genuinely planning to impose these tariffs, or is this just a clever negotiating tactic? One thing is clear: the Trump administration is willing to take a tough stance on trade, even if it means risking a trade war. But is this a bluff, or is the president prepared to follow through on his threats? Recent reports suggest that the administration might be backing down on its plans for 25% tariffs, opting instead for a more gradual approach. This could be a sign that the Trump administration is looking for a way out of the tariff standoff. One thing is certain, though: the tariff saga is far from over. We'll need to keep a close eye on developments to see how this all plays out. In conclusion, Trump's claims about 25% tariffs are a critical issue that affects us all. It's essential that we understand the implications of these tariffs on businesses, consumers, and international relations. The potential economic challenges are significant, and the outcome is far from certain. One thing is clear, though: the tariffs would be a game changer for the global economy, and we need to be prepared for the consequences. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments about the tariffs. If you're interested in learning more about economic topics, be sure to check out another video on our channel.